おはようございます。今日はひらがな long vowels、それから small tsu、や、you and yo を勉強します。You can find a description or an explanation of long vowels in our classroom かな book, page 15. 15ページです。Long vowel sounds in Japanese are a little bit confusing. A lot of times you, as native speakers of English, we can't hear them. But here's some examples of some words that have long vowels in them. For instance, this one here has a long a vowel. So it's おばあさん, which means grandmother. And then a long e sound, おじいさん. Now, to give you an idea of how important this is in Japanese that you actually pronounce that long vowel, there's another word in Japanese. It's おじさん. Oji-san means uncle. It can also mean middle-aged guy. So notice the difference between oji-san and oji-san. Oji-san means uncle. Oji-san means grandfather. So it can be a little bit confusing if you don't elongate your vowels properly. Another one is W sound, which is in the word taifu. Okay, so typhoon. Notice that with each of these, what you're simply doing is just adding the extra vowel here. So this is a J-I, and you're adding another I. And for this one, it's an F-U, and you're adding another U. Now, there's another set here that's a little bit tricky. It's on the next page. This next set is tricky because you can't actually hear it very well, that there's an I in here. It's also romanized as EE, which in Japanese is A. But actually, if you look at the spelling, it's not, for example, movie is not eiga with two E's in a row. It's actually eiga with an I. So even though this is romanized EEGA, it actually is E-I-G-A. And the pronunciation is just eiga. It's not A-E-ga. Same thing with a double O. It is often romanized as O-O, but it's actually O-U. Now you can blame the people who came up with the Hepburn romanization system for this. But notice, for example, the word for high school is romanized as ko with double O's, but you don't write it with the O's. It's ko-u, but pronounced ko. Okay, so you're going to have to make a mental note to remember that when you see a romanization like this, it is almost always E-I, eiga, and O-O is actually O-U. O. Here are some exceptions to that rule. There are actually some words where you actually do double the E in the E. So for instance, if you want to say yes in Japanese, it's e. This is an alternative to hai. One-san is another one where it's romanized as E and there actually is an extra E in there. Eto is something that indicates hesitation. It means well. So notice here then you do actually have the double E's. Oki, as in large, does have a double O, is romanized as a double O and actually has a double O. Osaka, the town of Osaka, again double O, that is written with a double O. Toi has an extra O in there, not a U. Kori, same thing. Toru, as well, the same thing. Now, these are all exceptions to the rule. So the basic rule is if you see OO, it is almost always going to be some combination of OU. And if you see AA, it's almost always going to be a combination of A and E, with the exception of the ones on this page. There are other alternative approaches to long vowel romanization. You may encounter this on a website, in a textbook. It's called Heibon Shiki, Nippon Shiki, Kunreishiki, and Wapuro Romaji. These are all just official names of a certain style of romanization of Japanese. It's not the one we use, but you might come across it. So one of the first things you notice is that use of a macron to indicate a long vowel O, where it would just have, just like it's up here. Use of a circumflex, or what's called a party hat, to indicate a long vowel, so it looks like this. So O with a, macron, or a circumflex above it. Long vowels, following kana spelling rules. Sometimes people just write it out like this. I sort of am not too consistent. I often romanize like this, but when I really focus on the spelling, I romanize it like this. じゃあ書きましょうか. So let's try to write this. So this one is 学生. We know this word already. So just practice our hiragana a little bit as well. Ka, 10-10. That's kicking up with the can-can. Ku, cuckoo bird's beak. Sei, it's the mom and the baby, say mama. And then E, because even though this is romanized as E, it's actually A-E, gakusei. Same thing for sensei. Say mama, oops. And then say mama again, and then E. Toke is to, got a thorn in my toe. K, the shape of a keg, and then E. Arigato. Arigato, romanized with an O, but actually spelled I caught a fish, reeds in the river. Oops. Ga. This was just ka, 10-10, kicking up with a can. To, got a thorn in my toe. And U, the shape of your mouth when you say ooh. Kino, same thing, romanized as an OO, but actually written like this. So ki, the shape of a key. No is no skating. It's supposed to sort of look like this, but anyway. Oki is an exception. This is the one where you actually have two O's in a row. Now, the only way to remember these exceptions is basically to memorize them. So if these appear in a vocab list, you just want to practice saying it o, ki, I. So notice that does have two long vowels there. Kawaii. Wa is Walter the cat. He's big and fat. I didn't mean to rhyme there. Kawaii. And then E again. So that's a double I. And these are EE and AA, as well as UU. Those are all, you're just going to basically repeat that letter. So mama is so-so. Kono sushi wa mama desu. The sushi is just so-so. So here you're just going to put an extra A. One-san. O, got a hole in one. Ne is the neko, the cat with a curly tail. A, you have an extra A in there, the snake with the hat on it. Sa, supposed to be a shape of a saw. And then un, which is like the N, but it looks more like an H. Oka-san. Oka, a. Okay, just as an example too, there's another sort of contrasting feature here. If you think of the word okashi, this is a Japanese word for sweets. But if you lengthen the vowel here, okashi, this means strange or weird. So you don't want to mix these two up. So okashi is sweets, and okashi is weird. Next we have hiragana small, tsu, ya, yu, and yo. So these are the only 4 characters in hiragana that are written small. So we're going to talk about these 2 orthographic processes. The small tsu represents double consonants. and the small ya, you, and yo are basically sounds added to another consonant. So these are actually will be referred to in class as chisai, tsu, ya, and you, and yo. Chisai means small. So here's some examples of small tsu, where you have ni regular size, tsu is slightly smaller, and some font, type font, it's hard to tell if that's smaller or not, but it's actually smaller. And then ki. So what that tsu does is it doubles the consonant that comes after it. Okay, so it doubles the K sound, and that's why you have a romanization of a double K here. The next one is ni, n, gyo. Sorry, it's gi plus chisai yo, and this sound together makes gyo. So ningyo, mermaid or merman. You can find double consonants in our classroom Kana-book page 17, and there's actually a video on this small tsu pronunciation on YouTube there. So when you form a double consonant, you write the small tsu before the consonant that it doubles. So for example, we gave an example of niki before, where you have ni, so they got a chisai tsu, and then you have ki. So ni, chisai tsu, ki. And what you want to do is, following this pattern here, oops, sorry, you want to write this in the lower, if you're writing it, you want to write it about a fourth of the size it normally is. Now notice this is lower than where these other ones start. So it's considered to be in the bottom left-hand quadrant of this square here. Now, if you write it too big, like with some of this font, it gets a little confusing. But if you write it too big like this, sometimes I can't tell if that is nitsuki or niki. So you want to write it here, like that. Niki, that's clearly a chisai tsu. So big tsu versus chisai tsu. Notice this one right here, this is a large tsu, fits the entire box there. So this is tatsu. And then you have ki, chisai tsu, te, and it's ki, te, which means stamp, postage stamp. So what about double N? You may think that certain words that have a chisai tsu followed by an N would double that N. But actually, go to the next page. So double N is actually represented with an N because remember, it is the only consonant that stands by itself. So when you see words like konnichiwa that have a double N in them, you're not going to write it with a chisai tsu. You're going to write it with an N. So instead of chisai tsu ni, you write it with N and then ni, and that doubles it. And the tricky part too is, as long as I'm just pointing this out, this wa is the particle wa. We haven't learned how to spell this yet. So if you're wondering why that's spelled that way, you can ask me more in class. We'll get into it later. But anyway, so here as well, nanning, how many, is not chisai tsu plus ni. It is actually an N. And that's the only character where you can double it with actually one other without a chisai tsu. じゃあ読みましょうか. So pronouncing this is a little tricky. Just give you a little bit of pointer here, a few pointers. It's like a small stop. It's considered a small glottal stop. So for example, if I say this word with the small tsu and it's gakko, I'm kind of enunciating it, maybe stopping a little bit more than I usually would. But if I said it without the small stop, gakko. Okay, so gakko, there's a little bit of a stop there. So gakko. This next one is tateiru instead of tateiru. So there's a little bit of a stop there. Nippon. Instead of Nippon, Nippon. Kekkon, kekkon. This next one here, 8匹. 楽器 Motto やった which means hooray どっち which one of the two どっち and 8分 This is really tricky to hear sometimes in Japanese, so when you study your vocab list, you're going to have to remind yourself this has a small tsu in it because you're not going to be able to hear it very well. So I can't see anything that we know so far that has a small tsu in it, but when it comes up, you definitely want to make note of it and practice writing it. じゃあ書きましょうか. So go ahead and pause the video, write these all out. Don't look at the previous slide and check your work. Restart the video and check your work when you're ready. So 学校 is ga. You notice that it has the double K, so you know there's a chisai tsu in there somewhere. It's right before the other, before ko. 学校. Ko is coin, top and bottom. 立っている. Ta, TNA. Chisai tsu. Te, table with a standing leg. I, eels or Hawaii. And then du. 3 rubies. Nippon is ni, the shape of the knee, the side of the leg, and the top and the bottom of the knee. Oops, extra stroke there. Chisai tsu. Po, as I believe this one was ho, sideways ho, underline. Nippon. Kekkon is ke. Chisai tsu. Ko, shape of a coin. 8匹 is ha. I forget our mnemonic for this one. In any case, chisai tsu. Pi is he, the shape of, right, somebody laughing. Those are 2 eyeballs. But it has a maru on it. Ki, shape of a key. Gaki, ga is ka, 10-10, kicking it up with the can-can. Chisai tsu. Ki. Moto is catch more fish with that hook that has barbs on it. Chisai tsu. To. Thorn in the toe. Yatta, shape of a yak's face and neck. Chisai tsu. Ta, the T and the A, top and the bottom of the A. Dochi is to, 10-10. Chisai tsu. Cheerleader no chi. And then hapun is ha. Chisai tsu. Oops, sorry, that didn't look very good. And fu, remember, is Fuji, or the shape of a nose. You can think of Fuji-san's nose or something. And then un. So the next one is small ya, you, and yo. You can find that in our Kana book, page 19. And for a video, you can go to 10-Day Kana Challenge Lesson 9 on YouTube. So along with double consonants, there's another set of kana that are called digraphs. And this is where you can find 2 letters to produce 1 sound. And digraphs are made in Japanese by combining any kana in the I column. This is really important. It has to be in the I column with a small ya, you, or yo following it. So for example, very common word, Tokyo. Notice this exhibits actually 2 of the topics we're talking about today, where you have double O, right? Romanizes OO, but it's to-u, kyo-u. And notice then you have that small yo. Again, in this type of font, it looks like that yo is quite big. So it should really be more like this in written speech, where you have ki plus small yo. Notice it's lower. It's a little bit lower. And then u again. Okay, so what you have is to, u, ki, chisayo, and u. And those sounds together make kyo. So Tokyo rather than Tokyo. Okay. Notice these are all characters in the I category, where you have ki plus ya is kya, shi plus ya is sha, chi plus ya is cha. You have nya, bya, mya. Moving over a little bit on this side, you have, this is a hard one. You've already seen this one where you have ryugakse no ryu, and you have gyu, ju, and this one is not something you ever see really. So just forget that one. And then moving over here to the yo category, you have things like cho, nyo, hyo, myo. You don't have this very often. I don't think I've ever seen that. But anyway, gyo and pyo, for example. So all of these belong to the I category. Ki, shi, chi, ni, he, mi, di. So don't forget that. So what I'm referring to is if somebody wanted to make, let's say, cha, no, let's say mya, and they did it like this, ma plus ya. That doesn't work at all. So here's what regular ya-yu-yo versus chisai ya-yu-yo looks like. The first word is yasumi, and the ya is perfectly, it's a large one, so you're going to say yasumi. Anything that starts with a ya-yu-yo is always going to, like a small chisai ya-yu and yo never starts a word. It's always in the middle of a word or the end of a word. So you see something like yuki, snow, it's going to be a large U. Yo, yoyaku, reservation. Okay, so the next ones illustrate what a small ya looks like. So you have de, sha. And notice here then that sha is she plus small ya. So just like small tsu, it's in that bottom left-hand corner and a little bit lower than the rest of the word. Bijitsu. Bijitsu is bi, ji, chisai yu, and tsu, and pronounced bijutsu. The next one is ryokan, and you have ri, chisai yo, kan, ryokan, ryokan. One of the examples I always give in terms of how can this differentiate between different words is this one. So there's a word biyo, biyoin. And this means salon or beauty parlor. Okay? Beauty parlor or salon. So it's biyoin. It has a large yo, so you actually say biyoin. Has a long vowel there, right? The other word has a chisai yo in it, spelled almost the same way except for that chisai yo, and it's byoin, and that means hospital. So you don't want to accidentally say you're going to the byoin, the hospital, if you're actually going to the byoin. So there's a big difference between the small yo and the big yo there. There is an exception sometimes with un. So sometimes you might see this combination, nya, nyu, nyo, where it looks like some ni would be followed by ya, yu, yo, like this, but it's actually n followed by small ya, yu, yo. And so that can, or sorry, followed by a, it should be large. Sorry about that. It's followed by a large ya, yu, yo. So, for example, if you look at honnyaku, it looks like this combination should be written like this. Ho, ni plus chisai yo plus ku. But it actually is ho, n plus large ya. Another example would be danyu. Now notice here that people have romanized this with an apostrophe to indicate this is an N plus a U sound, a large U. So danyu looks like it would be written like this with a ni and a chisai U, but it's actually plus U. Same with kinyobi, Friday, where you may think it's ni plus chisai yo, but it's actually plus large yo. So sorry about that. That should be large up there. じゃあ読みましょうか. Pause the video, pronounce all of these, and restart the video and see if you got it right. So the first one is shi, chisai ya, shi, so it's shashin, shashin, picture. This one's fairly easy. If you looked at the English word, you probably know it. It's Kyoto. Notice this illustrates 2 points that we've made in this video, chisai yo and long vowel. And okay, so the reason this isn't romanized like this is because we've just included the English word for it, and the English word for it actually just has one O. But in Japanese, it actually is a long vowel. So the next one is ma. Ma have 4 hands. Chisai tsu, chi, chisai ya. So matcha. Matcha is green tea powder. A lot of people like matcha ice cream. The next one is ki, gi, chisai yo, so it's kingyo. Next one is China, which we've learned this word, so hopefully you knew that, but you didn't know it was spelled with the chi, chisai yo, go, ku, chugoku, chugoku. So this has a chisai yu and a long vowel. Next one is milk, gi, chisai yu, ni, chisai yu, So gyunyu, gyunyu. Okay, so that one has long vowels as well in it. And here's the example I was showing you earlier. Hospital in Japanese is bi, chisai yo, byouin, but not byouin. Densha, sorry, I said that one. Shi, chisai ya is densha. Homework is shi, chisai yu, kudai, shukudai. じゃあ書きましょうか. Go ahead and stop the video, write this on a separate piece of paper. Do not look back at the last slide and restart when you're ready to check your work. So this one is, first one is shashin, so it's shi, chisai ya, shi, and Notice that I've made this a little bit lower than the basic line right here. I try to make it a little smaller actually, but with my stylus it's hard to do that. So next one is Kyoto. So it's ki, chisai yo, shape of your mouth, to, thorn in your toe. Next one is matcha. So it's ma, has 4 hands, chisai tsu. Notice how this is romanized like this. It often is romanized with a TC rather than a CC. So be careful with that. So here we're doing chisai tsu as well, right? So matcha. So here we have chisai tsu and chisai ya. Kingyo is ki, gi, which is the ki, 10-10. Yep. Yo, chisai yo. Chugoku is chi, cheerleader no chi. Yu, go, ko with the 10-10, and ku, cuckoo bird's beak. Gyunyu is shape of a key, 10-10. Yu, mouth, shape of your mouth. Yu, it has double U's there. And then you, oops, that's wrong. It's ni plus you. So actually this is confusing. Like when you look at this, you think, oh, that is, we put it on the previous slide. But really, it's just about knowing the spelling and knowing if it's this versus this. So it's just something you have to pay attention to. I mean, considering how bad English is in terms of spelling, this is fairly easy, right? 病院. So, び, 小さいよ. い, ん. 電車. De, table, 10. ん. She has nice hair. や. 宿題. し、小さいよ。く、だ。い、宿題。